Welcome to the Boniface chat room. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. And now a word from our founder and president, Mr. Derek S. Johnson Sr. Derek?
Good evening. Good evening. Thank you for joining us and welcome to our very first Boniface chat room. We have an amazing program prepared for you, moderated by lovely Tiffany Walker. And we have a great panel of outstanding women who you will hear from shortly. One of our special guests is Miss Debbie Jackson, who is married to the late legendary and the honorable Hal Jackson, who is a giant in broadcasting and entertainment. Mr. Jackson, along with Percy Sutton, co-founded Inner City Broadcasting Corporation, and Mr. Jackson was the chairman of the board. And for those that don't know, WBLS and WLIB were a couple of the radio stations that were owned by Inner City Broadcasting. I would be remiss if I didn't mention that it was the support of Mr. and Mrs. Jackson that launched my photography career. Here's a quick story. In the early 90s, a good friend of the family, Mr. Steve Manning, who got his claim to fame by starting the Jackson 5 fan club. Then he went on to become their publicist as well as the publicist for the King of Pop himself, Michael Jackson, and the Jackson family. It was Steve Manning who introduced me to Cynthia Horner, who was the editor-in-chief of Right On magazine. And in 1998, Cynthia Horner, she introduced me to Mr. and Mrs. Jackson, who needed a photographer to cover the Hal Jackson Talented Teens at the Apollo Theater. After covering that event, I received a phone call from Miss Jackson, and she asked me if I would be interested in photographing Mary J. Blige's album release party. And I was like, "Are you kidding me?" I was like, "Absolutely, absolutely." So from then it was on. I had a 15-year run.
And I like how you act like you just didn't know what's going on.
I had a 15-year run in the music industry, and the doors was just open. I started getting into the fashion industry as well. Early in my career, I met the legendary photographer, Mr. Hugh Bell, and we were both shooting an event for WBLS. And from that day on, Mr. Bell put me under his wing. He mentored me, and eventually I became one of his student photographers, and I became his studio manager. And up until he passed away, I managed his studio for about 10 years down in Union Square. I had a degree at the time in photography from the Fashion Institute of Technology. And before I met Mr. Bell, I was working at Pier 59 Studios, which is one of the biggest photo studios in the world down in Chelsea Piers. But being connected to Mr. Hal Jackson and to Mr. Hugh Bell, it put me in a unique situation, and I was able to utilize my skills and resources to get recognized in the fashion industry. And I started photographing new models for major modeling agencies. And it was like at that time that I noticed, systemic racism and discrimination towards young Black aspiring models. And I really wanted to do something about it, about the pain and of that I seen these young ladies going through and the rejection that I saw them and their families experience. Some of these people, they travel from all over from different states, all throughout the country, to come to New York City, the Big Apple, to try to get their break in the fashion industry, and were told, they were denied, and they were denied access to major channels of opportunity. And that's when I had the vision to produce a magazine, which I felt at that time would be a solution to this dilemma. So I had the connections and I had the resources, but I didn't have the name. So at that time, my daughter, she was very young. This was like maybe about 12 or 13 years ago. She was in the first grade at her school. And one of her assignments was to chaperone your parents around the church and show them the beautiful cathedral and the different chapels throughout the church. And one of the chapels was St. Boniface. And at the time, she had her two teeth were missing in the front. And she took me to a couple of the other chapels and she gave me the whole breakdown. When we got to Boniface, I had the idea for the magazine. When we got there, the last thing she said was Boniface means pretty face. And she looked up at me and she smiled. her two teeth was out, and it was like an aha moment. And I said, that's the name. That's how I went, trademarked the name, I went copyright the name. And then we started working on the magazine. We launched the first issue in 2010. Interestingly, 10 years later now, we're back at it again to produce Boniface magazine. And we have the same slogan, a new vision for a new generation. So this conversation is really about young Black women. So I want to hear from you. I'm going to turn it back over to Tiffany Walker. We're going to hear from our amazing panelists, and they're going to have a conversation with our beautiful ambassadors. So we want you to just lay back and experience the Boniface experience. Thank you for joining us this evening.
Thank you, Derek.
Boniface magazine highlights and celebrates the beauty, intellect, creativity, achievements, and stories of Black women. Our vision is to establish a credible and accountable platform that elevates our voices, our community, and our public representation. We are an intergenerational magazine with a focus on young Black women between the ages of 16 and 26, who we call our Boniface Trailblazers. With community being an integral component of our vision, we also make room for the voices of Black women and girls outside of the 16 to 26 demographic. Each issue, we feature a Boniface elder who is a Black woman age 50 and older who shares pearls of wisdom in the Wisdom Corner. We have our Boniface aunties. In each issue, we highlight a Black woman who is successful in her career, community, or home and can serve as a role model and or mentor for our Boniface Trailblazers. Last, we have our Boniface girlies, who are Black girls under 16 years of age. They are the generation who are watching and learning and who will one day become our Boniface Trailblazers, aunties, and elders. Each issue, we highlight a Boniface girlie, celebrating her achievements and simply lifting up her voice. Boniface magazine is purpose-driven and mission-oriented. We are community-focused. Although we seek to create opportunities for personal and professional growth and advancement, we seek to accomplish this through community, and we want to have fun doing it. Our content includes beauty, fashion, health and wellness, career, business, education, financial literacy, life skills, social justice, mentorship, and coaching. Our content extends beyond the digital magazine to our website, where we have even more engagement, including videos. We are an online digital magazine with very limited edition prints. In the near future, you can expect events, workshops, and more from Boniface magazine.
So there you have a little sneak peek at the cover of our premiere issue and a little bit about what we're about. The entire Boniface team is passionate about our mission. We're passionate about our vision. We're excited for this journey. We're looking forward to building community and creating opportunities. So now we would like to have a word from our elder, Dr. Eleanor Moody Shepherd. She is the former vice president and academic dean of New York Theological Seminary and was one of the founders of their Women's Center. She is sharp, I'm telling you. She is wise, and she is the very first elder to be featured in the Wisdom Corner of our premiere issue. Welcome, Dr. Eleanor Moody Shepherd.
Thank you, Tiffany and Derek. And of course, all of the invited alumnus that you have today. And also always thinking about the girls and the people that have joined you tonight. The reason why I thought it was important for you to have a Wisdom Corner is because we always need the elders. And the elders will teach us. And I'm still looking toward my elders, even though I am considered now. And I look around and say, oh, I'm an elder. But I still have other elders that I'm looking forward to. But tonight, I'm only going to give you a glimpse of what I hope that corner, and being the first one, that will just give a few words about what I think would be important for this day, that you celebrate the restart. It's not the first time. It's a restart of the magazine. And I want to share with you some wisdom from an African proverb. And I know we've heard it over and over and over again, but I don't think we can ever hear it enough. And this African proverb says, if you educate a man, you educate an individual. If you educate a woman, you educate a nation. So that we want to just say that we understand that women are the educators, because we remember the ones of us that grew up within the Christian community, that we remember that story about Mary, the mother of Jesus. He left her when he was 12. And we know that is the age when young men, even now in the Jewish community, they become a man. So we know that she educated. She's the one that nurtured him until he became a man. And so, in looking at the intent of and the mission of this magazine, we want to just look at and how we can help young girls become strong women and make the contribution. And that's why you have so many people here now that are working to that end. But I also, as Derek said, I am a theologian. So I need to say to you that my theology is I am a womanist theologian. And when I say that, it's connected to the wisdom that came from Black women. And so that theology speaks to self-love, self-support, and self-interest. So often we take care of everyone because we talk about how women take care of the nation. But we also need to teach young girls how to love themselves, how to support their own interests, and how to support each other. So for me, in the way I am going to try to impart wisdom is through three pillars, and that is the mental, the moral, and of course motivation. So if we look at trying to help young women develop their all of their mental power through education, through other sources, through mentoring them, then of course it will make them stronger. And it's also important for them to develop a moral compass so that they can make the right decision for themselves. They will be guided by others, but they are not always in the presence of caring adults. So therefore, they need to be able to make sound moral decisions. And the third one, of course, is motivation. And we want to have young women learn to be highly motivated, because this will require individuals to be motivated and self-starters, and to be able to forge ahead. Because as Derek said, the world has marginalized Black women and Black girls, of course. And so those three principles will help us to help our children, these young women, to become strong and thriving adults through all of the struggles that they would need to get through in order to get there. But as this magazine has its mission to help support them and provide them with the resources. And I thank you, Tiffany, and thank you, Derek, for giving me an opportunity to start to be the first one and to start the magazine and be the first one in the Wisdom Corner.
Absolutely. We wouldn't have it any other way. On that note, as we're talking about, women empowering women, Derek and I would like to take this opportunity to acknowledge two women who have been incredibly supportive throughout our lives individually and now
Yo,
this journey
close the
together.
door.
Derek, you want to go ahead and mute?
Okay.
Thank you. The first person is Mrs. Marie Johnson Ladson, which is Derek's mom, and the second is my mom, Mrs. Alderine Walker. So we just want to have a brief word from our mom, starting with Mrs. Ladson.
Congratulations to all that have participated in the relaunch of Boniface magazine, especially to the founder and president, Derek Johnson, who has had this vision, and to Vice President Tiffany Walker, who has joined him to make this happen. I look forward to seeing some amazing conversations and topics that will motivate the viewers to think and to act to make change in their lives, especially young women and girls of color. You are young, you are gifted, and you are unique. Again, congratulations, keep the faith, stay encouraged, and make it happen.
Amen. We are good. Words from Mama. Make it happen. And we will do just that.
That's
And
my
we're able to
beloved
do-
mother. Love you, Ma.
we're able to do that because we have the kind of support that we have from women like you and our moms. Mommy, you can unmute. You can unmute. You're muted.
Have to be unmuted.
Okay.
Mummy? Hello, everyone. I'm Alderine, affectionately known as Dee, and I'm Tiffany's mom, for those who don't know. But I just want to say congratulations to the launch of Boniface, to Tiffany and Derek for making this happen. And I just want to thank everyone who's a part of this to come together to be a village. As Dr. Moody Shepherd said, you know, it takes a community, and synonymous with community is also village. So I just want us to continue this support of our village and of Boniface, and to continue supporting their mission to mentor these young ladies and to just help lift them up and be their mentors. And I just want to say thank you for your continued love and support through all of this. Stay with us during the course, okay? Because it may get rough at times and you may want to quit, but it's been a long time coming, so no quitting. Full speed ahead, okay? Love you guys. Thank you.
Got it. Thank you.
Love you
No
too.
quitting.
Thank you.
No quitting.
No quitting.
We'll keep plugging ahead. And you know, you mentioned mentoring young women, but we also want to create a platform where we can see more of ourselves, where we can be represented, where we can look at a magazine and see people who look like us, where we can create a platform where we're having conversations with women who share similar issues based on different socioeconomic things and race and all of that good stuff. So thank you so much again to our moms. And now for a few light house rules. Again, we ask that you please keep your mics muted and use the chat for all comments and questions. Please be respectful in the chat. I don't think that'll be difficult. This is a safe space and we want to honor that. You know, we want to create an environment where we can hear each other, where we can learn from one another and ultimately build together. We'll do our best to share the comments and questions from the chat. We may not be able to get to every one of them, but please, we encourage you to still engage in the chat. You may find your comment or question in the magazine. And last, we are recording this virtual event, and portions of it may be used for the magazine and our website. So if you do not wish to make an appearance on our platform, that's perfectly fine. We just ask that you please turn your video off.
And now let's meet our Boniface ambassadors, Naylin Johnson, Nia Johnson, China Beckett, Mercedes Gomez, Nia Massa, Ashley Sangster, Taylor Sutherland, Florence Odegoye, Tatiana McDonald, Alexandra Eckert, and Anita Flores. Tonight's special guest panelists are Miss Debbie B. Jackson, a 30-year radio veteran of WBLS, Miss Trinae McGee, the youngest councilwoman elected to the District of West Haven, Connecticut, Miss Diamond Cooper, producer for the Elvis Duran radio show on Z100. Miss Jennifer Jones Austin, Esquire, CEO of the Federation of Protestant Welfare Agencies. Psychologist, Dr. Jamila Codrington. New York City-based writer and editor, Miss Tatiana Yomari. The Honorable Judge Nichelle A. Johnson. News anchor and children's book author Talitha Vickers, and CEO of Rough Riders record label, Miss Siobhan Dean. We encourage you to visit our website and learn more about each of these incredible women who we are so honored to have with us tonight. And now, let's jump into the conversation.
All righty. So, are you all ready? Y'all ready?
Yes.
Oh, Derek, you used the clap hands. Y'all ready? Okay, so we're talking about media, Black women in media, specifically mainstream media and social media, how they impact the self-concept of young Black women. So just to be clear, by mainstream media, we're talking about television, film, radio, and print. And for the purpose of our conversation, we will make the distinction between mainstream media and social media, which are the social platforms, Instagram, Facebook, etc. Okay, so here we go. This is our first question, and then we're going to open up the floor for a conversation. I'll direct this to one of our panelists first. Okay, we have gone from playing the help on television and in movies to having roles as leading ladies. We have gone from having a lack of representation in magazines and being subjected to Eurocentric standards of beauty to now gracing the cover of magazines. When it comes to the representation of Black women in mainstream media, are you satisfied with this progress? Why or why not? I'm going to start with Ms. Trinae McGee.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. It is a delight to see so many beautiful melanated queens across the screen. I feel like we have grown a lot in mainstream media as well as social media, which I think has become an intersection of mainstream media. Social media has as much influence as mainstream media, but I still think we got a lot of growing to do, and especially now growing up where there are a wide range of characters on television, that deal with social and racial issues, such as colorism. Growing up, when I would audition for commercials or TV shows, I remember walking in and knowing that they cast based off of a type. Sometimes in the room, it'd be like the most like homogenous. We all sort of looked alike. And that was as far as they went into the dynamic of what Black women looked like. So there weren't Black women who were brown, darker skin. It was always like, Black women who could pass. And so I think now, in television, we see a wide range of characters. But as of recently, Viola Davis actually said that she sort of regrets the character of Aibileen in The Help, because there was no hope for her at the end of that film. And she also talked about how she's just as qualified as Meryl Streep, but she's not offered the same roles. So I do see us sort of move out of fantasy. I think historical characters, and then characters that sort of play up and romanticize the way Black women are into Black women who are vulnerable and strong and powerful, and independent and desired and to be loved. But I do think that there's more opportunity for that to expand, and especially for women of a certain age, where you don't have like a Viola Davis going up against Angela Bassett like all the time, So that is what I think is sort of transcending in mainstream media when it comes to beauty.
And this is coming from a younger voice. And I'm interested to hear from some of the women who have been around a little bit longer. Ms. Jackson, you've been around a little bit longer, not much longer, but just a little bit longer. And I want to know from you, do you see what Trinacy's, do you feel that the progress is satisfactory for where we are now?
I think that we still have a long way to go. When I started out, well, I'll say that I am now 70. When I started out way back when, I was always the first to do, I mean, in a lot of my positions, I was the first Black here, I was the first Black there. In radio, well, my husband was the first to start a lot of different things, but when it comes to women, we still have a long way to go. I see us in different areas at this point in time. I see us more on television than before. I see like a Joy Reid at 7 o'clock on MSNBC, which is a darker skinned individual, which you wouldn't see before. I remember on Channel 5, way back when, Cheryl Washington was on doing the news. I know you guys that are young, y'all have never even heard of her, but she was dark skinned, and it was like, oh, because you didn't see that. And you still don't see very many dark skinned women out there. I mean, if you look around, we still have a long way to go. We still do. I'm glad to see how far we have come, but we have to always hold our head up high, because I see a lot out there that I am not happy with on social media, in particular.
Right.
Yeah, that's about it.
No, and we're definitely going to get into the social media, right? The social media aspect to all of this. Ms. Jennifer, your thoughts?
Good to be here with all of you. I'm really excited about this conversation. And I know that when we wrap, I will probably be so energized and so pumped up. It's going to take me hours to get to bed, just having been a part of this. So, I agree with Trini and with Debbie that progress has been made, but I'm in the camp of still believing that Black women are objectified. And, yes, it is exciting to see Joy and Reid on every weeknight at 7 p.m. But it was very clear that this very progressive liberal cable program or cable station wanted to get that image, that space, that place. Just the fact that they went after after she took over, after Melissa Harris Perry was terminated, they went to get a Black face. Right. And then if you watch the, I think it was the Hour of Joy, whatever it was on Saturdays and Sundays, they've been looking for a Black replacement. So it is the objectification of the Black person and the Black woman. They've been interviewing Black women for that role. So is it really, we're looking for the best person, or we're looking for the best Black woman, right? And I don't know what to make of that. I'm reminded in these moments when I look at magazine covers that I feel like we are looking at extremes very often when we're looking at covers and Black women. It's not like, the Black woman every day. It's the Beyonce with, the lighter complexion and the 3.5 foot long weave, or it's like Lupita, right? It's like these extremes. Right? Or if you got Serena, then, she can't be Serena in her natural state. And I can't help but wonder, what is that about? Are we yet really centering on the Black woman in whatever, manner she presents? And I'm reminded of the words of Anna Julia Cooper back in 1858, a Black educator, the first Black woman to earn a PhD. And she said, only the Black woman can say, when and where I enter, in the quiet, undisputed dignity of my womanhood, without violence and without suing or special patronage, then and there, the whole race enters with me. What Anna Julia Cooper was speaking to is that until this society stops denigrating and diminishing the value of the Black woman, and sees her for who she is, and is not trying to assign or ascribe to her certain ways of being, and until she is able to enter spaces, however she shows up, our society truly doesn't progress. And I don't know yet if just because we're gracing the covers of more and more magazines, or just because you see us, on the evening news. I mean, Joanne Reed has had to go through 1,001 different hairstyles. Is that by choice? I don't know. Or are they trying to find that right look for her on 7 p.m. on weeknights?
Right.
So I think we've made some progress.
It's funny that you mentioned Joy Reid's hairstyles as it's changed, because we've also noticed, at least I have, her makeup changes. We're always like, does she have a new makeup artist this week? Something's different again this week? And so this is definitely something to think about. Siobhan, where are you on this? Are you on the side of, the progress is great, or not really sure?
Well, I think everyone who spoke, really put their hands on the pulse, because you can't say that there's no progress, because there has been progress, but at the same time, it's still not equal, and we're still being, presented in a manner that is less flattering than it should be. I come from the music industry, so of course I'll speak from the music perspective. So we only had a handful of Black women rappers, but over the past year or so, we've really flooded the gates now, and they're just coming so fast that we can't stop them. But at the same time, their presentation is still, less than flattering. But there are like one or two that's, trying to speak a message and be positive. So I would stand on the fence right now, but I do believe that there could be more progress, but it takes a village to raise a village. And we as Black women have to encourage those positive images for the younger generation. So when they do present themselves, it could be more acceptable and more cool to say, yep, you know what, I don't have to get on the stage half naked in order to get attention and to make money and to be the woman that I want to become. I could do other things, express myself with my clothes on. But unfortunately, the society that we live in today, they pay those people more money. So of course, that's a catch-22.
Right. And so money still becomes an issue in that as well. Miss Talitha, you're in news. You're a news anchor. What are your thoughts on this?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm just so happy to be in this safe space, and I am so happy for the launch of Boniface magazine. And just hearing the feedback that I'm hearing right now, it's right on point. So ladies, this is truth and wisdom at its best. And I would just totally hang on to every inch and every word that every person is saying right now, because for me, being an anchor and reporter for the past 18 years, I have seen slight change. And I say that ever so slightly because for the first time in 18 years, I was able to wear my hair in braids. Why is that? For the first time in 18 years, I was able to wear my natural hair. Why is that? There are gatekeepers within our industry that see us as our natural selves as unprofessional, and that's not okay. I've walked into newsrooms where I have had to edit myself from my hair to my makeup, to my voice, to my speech. And after a while, it's just like, why am I editing myself? This was very early on in my career. I don't play that anymore. I am T-Money, here I come. I'm gonna, go in there and do the best that I can. And when I don't know something, I'm gonna speak up and I'm gonna ask. And I can write a story just as good as my white counterparts or other women that come and present their story ideas too as well. But I will say that over the years, I have seen where, there might be a Black female anchor I should say there would be a white female anchor, and I would apply for the position, and that white female anchor would be replaced by another white female anchor, even though I had been there and put in my time and done my due diligence. And I would be passed over and passed over, wondering, why is this? Why I have more experience. I'm more than qualified for this position. So I think that more needs to be done for sure. And I think that starts also with what we're doing today, educating and elevating women grassroots from a foundational fundamental level now, so that we can have those positions and we can have more management and more news directors and more executive producers who look like us, that we can tell our stories, where we're not constantly walking into all white newsrooms where we feel as if our voice doesn't matter or our work isn't as good as. And when we talk about Joy-Ann Reid, I mean, I've met Joy, and I've worked with Joy in terms of serving on panels and things like that. And I see both sides of the coin, because I understand that at the same time, you know, there's a position and you want to be able to take it, but you want to make sure that position is right for you too, as well. You don't want to just jump into something and say, okay, well, I'm just going to be the first Black person Black woman to go ahead and do this, and then you fall flat on your face. And I'm not saying that's what Joy is doing by any means, but at the same time, we have to make sure that the right qualified people are filling the positions, and then also making sure that the management, like, we're working in places that are reflective of us, that we're going to get those opportunities too as well. So I get the whole hair and the makeup, and I just say to everyone on the call, just continue to be your authentic self, because now when I walk into my newsroom, I just feel, I mean, to be honest, like, I just dust my shoulders off, because I'm just like, you know, at the end of the day, this is me, you know, just flat ironing my hair, burning my crown to fit in is not the way to go, because at the end of the day, you can't truly be your authentic self. I mean, I've had even, I'll wrap up by saying I've had, you know, viewers write in and criticize my hair for my braids, and criticize me wearing my hair naturally curly. I've had people also on the flip side of that say, thank you so much. My daughter is watching and she sees herself. Finally, she sees someone that looks like how I do her hair. And thank you for being your natural self. Growing up in New York, I only saw Brenda Blackman. And I know many of you might not remember her, but she was over at UPN 9 News, and she was the same complexion as me. And I was like, what? I want to be just like her. So Boniface Magazine, you're off to an awesome, amazing start with the panel alone. I'm just honored to be here, and keep going for sure.
Talitha, can I just follow up with a quick question? You said that, you know, in 18 years, it's the first time that you can wear braids or wear your hair natural. And at this point, you are just showing up authentically as yourself. And you said, why is that? Why is that? Is it because you have the tenure that you can have the leeway? Is it because we are expanding our you know, mindset, or is it something else?
Well, I think it's twofold, Tiffany, and it's a great question, because, you know, when I was in college, I was a track and field athlete, so I had braids, and I was, you know, auditioning for different roles, or I was also making my what's called a news anchor reel or a news reporter reel. And the feedback that I would get, Tiffany, was, you're doing great. You're a great writer. Your voice sounds great. You can work on this or that, but you got to change your hair. You're not going to get a job like that. And that came from news directors that would say, hey, are you going to wear your hair in braids like that? And then I would say, because I wanted the job, and, you know, I'm fresh out of college, and I'm like, oh my gosh, if I just change me, then I can get that, you know? So I did it. I fell for the trap, you know, and I literally changed my hair. Now, mind you, this is a different time and a different space, you know? And at that time in my 20s, I'm now 40. In my 20s, I just wanted a shot. I had to get my foot in the door some way, somehow. Looking back now, if I didn't change my hair, would I be where I am today? I don't know. I can't say. But I do think you hit the nail on the head, Tiffany, that because of the space and time that we're in right now, I think people are being more open. I think people are being more, you know, taking more of a stand and saying, hey, I had to go to my news director and say, listen, it's the summer. and I need a break. I need my hair to just have a break. And I know your hair is different than mine, but this is not the way that my hair naturally grows out of my head. I'm burning it every day. I'm damaging myself to make you feel more comfortable. And that's not okay. And I'm not willing to do that anymore. And when you're good at your position and you're able to go in there and speak your truth, and they know that you're valued and that you're speaking and want to be a reflection of the community, I mean, I think that played a major role as to why for the first time in 18 years, I was able to wear braids on the air, and the station got a lot of feedback about it. Yeah. And I still continued to rock it. I was getting not great emails, but I also got some great support too.
Thank you.
Let
Thank
me
you
just
for
quickly
that.
jump in here and say, I think that, when I grew up, and even still today, my mother would often talk to me about the clothes that I bought. And how I should balance my wardrobe. And she would talk about buying the classics, the clothes that, like you might spend a little bit more money, but you'd be able to, wear them over time. And then she'd talk about the trends, the fashion trends. And she'd talk about how you should have a few fashion trends, don't, you may spend a little bit of money, don't spend too much money because they'll be out of season maybe next year, right? So your classics are things that you can wear from year to year, and then the trends. What we don't yet know is whether or not what's happening right now in our society is that it is, we're trending Black, and it's trendy to be Black and to embrace certain aspects as a society of Blackness. The real question is, how do we, as we are trending Black right now, just kind of blow that door off of the hinges so that it can never be shut again? I think part of what we're experiencing right now is that, Black males are the highest on the totem pole. Michelle Obama, made it okay to be a strong Black woman. People begin to feel safe with a strong Black woman. And when she, in the second term started wearing her hair natural and doing certain things, it was like, oh, maybe that's okay and they're not threatening. The point I'm simply making is that you asked the question of Talitha. I don't know if it's just that all of a sudden now we've embraced ourselves and society has embraced us in every respect, or if we're just trending Black right now. And they may decide, and this is Make America Great Again, right? How do we pull back on that? And so the question is, how do you keep the door open?
And blowing the hinges off the door, for me personally, means going full force in terms of owning your authentic self. So I think that you're right in terms of we have to move forward. It's not a fad. It's not a phase. This is me. This is who I am. Take it or leave it. And if you choose to leave it, that's your loss. And I'm okay with that.
But
I would also like to say, that I agree with that, but when you blow those doors off, we have to do it together as a unit. We can't have little groups over here and little groups over there. I mean, sure, we could have that, but at some point we have to come together as a unit, as a whole. We can't have, and please, I'm sorry, Derek, please, no disrespect to any men in general, but we have a lot of our Black men who's not being as supportive to Black women. So now you have a whole nother conversation that has to start so that we can go, because they're supposed to be our supporters. They're supposed to be our biggest supporters. We're supposed to look upon all Black men like they're our brothers and push us forward and not let other entities and protect us the way they protect themselves in their own circle. And that's not happening. So we struggle a little harder because we're not unified. That's pretty much where I'm going with that. And before I wrap this up, I want to say thank you, Derek, and thank you, Tiffany. I forgot to say that when I first came on. What happened?
No, thank you. And to your point, Siobhan, in terms of, having to do it together as a group, as a village, because Talitha, it's okay for us to say, yeah, I'm going to show up authentically. I'm going to be me, and you can take it or leave it. But at the end of the day, if there's not enough of us, we may be just missing out on opportunities unless we come together to create our own opportunities. Because if we're not creating our own opportunities, then what platforms do we have for us to move forward? And I'll turn it over to Diamond. Diamond, who you're muted.
Yeah, I am sorry.
No, it's okay.
I have a story about the hair topic that was brought up. So about almost 2 years ago, I auditioned for the job or interviewed for the job that I have now at Elvis Duran in the Morning Show. And I didn't even think to apply for it because I just felt like, no, the show there's no diversity within the show. Like they don't want a Black female on the show. So I'm not even gonna apply, whatever. I was working at Power 105 at the time and Z100 is on the same floor, but I never went over there, just didn't think about it until someone referred me. And when I sat down in a meeting with the woman who has now become one of my mentors, I sat down with her and she was explaining why I should apply for the job because she had to talk me into it. Like I said, I was just like, no. And she convinced me. And before I left her office, I was like, I had braids in and I was like, oh, now I gotta go home, take these braids out and get my hair done. And she stopped me and was like, no, you don't. They're gonna have to accept you for who you are. You're gonna have to, a different conversation, accept yourself for who you are. And the fact that these braids are you, and you don't have to go and put in a weave, even though I did, and it was like, whatever, they didn't even notice it. But it was one of those conversations that has stuck with me because like Miss Debbie said, we need more people in these positions, more Black women in these positions to be able to open doors for us and have these conversations. You don't have to change who you are. You can walk in there and do whatever you, I mean, how many hairstyles have they seen since I've gotten the job? I don't even know because I change it all the time. I'm like Joy. I'm just changing it every other week. But it was one of the, is my internet okay? You guys hear me?
It's a little,
it like broke up a little bit. Okay, good. It's having these women in positions, in managerial positions behind the scenes. Someone earlier said something about having people in the newsroom that look like you, I think, and producers who look like you, who understand you. It's having those women who really open the doors for everyone else and knocking the door off the hinges. Someone else said, I'm sorry, I can't keep up, is really good. And it's something that we need to talk more about and keeping the door open for more women and stuff like that, and having these conversations. So yeah, we just gotta, I think we've come a long way, but we have way more to go.
Thank you, Diamond. And Tati, we want to bring you in because you're a writer. You've written for many different publications, and you've had some experiences of your own. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Where do I even begin? I've been through a lot in terms of the industry. I wouldn't say it's more so related to my hair or anything like that. It's just more so the color of my skin. And I feel like as a woman, we already feel like we have our backs against the wall because women are looked at as low on the totem pole. And I feel like it's important to kind of screen your surroundings. And when I say surroundings, the places where you decide to work. That being said, I say all of that to say that it's hard when you're passionate about something and whether that's being a writer, being a broadcaster, or whatever. It's hard being passionate about something, but when you feel like you're trying to enter specific spaces, the environment is basically toxic. So I also feel like it's all about trying to find your right place and not being afraid to take a chance on yourself. One good example I can share is that I used to be the senior fashion and beauty writer for Us Weekly. When I was at that publication, the amount of racism and disrespect that I received compared to my white counterparts was off the charts. And it got so bad that I ended up quitting before securing another position. And I was still freelancing, but it took me 6 to 8 months to land on my feet and actually find a full-time role. And while that's something that may not sit well with other people, I feel like sometimes you have to take a chance on yourself because your mental health is more important than anything. And you can't allow people in specific positions to get in the way of that, because then you won't be able to show up as your best self. So I feel like it's important to keep that in mind.
So it seems like as much progress has been made, we just still have a very,
And
very long way to go.
exactly. And I also wanted to say as well, like, yeah, we have more Black women entering the fold, but however, it's important to keep in mind that for a lot of companies, it's only to satisfy a quota. To be like, let's just call it what it is. Like, it's only to satisfy a quota. It's not because they want to welcome you in. For example, look at what happened with this year. George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, all of a sudden, I know you guys seen it on social media, you're watching TV, you even heard it on the radio. Oh, this company is pledging to change their diversity initiatives. Where has all that gone? Can you really sit down and say that these companies actually came through with their promise, or was it all talk to satisfy what's going on in the world?
Back to what Jennifer was saying about trending, right?
Yeah.
I think Judge Nichelle Johnson, are you working now?
Yes, ma'am. Can you hear me now?
We can definitely hear you now. Thank you
My
for
goodness.
being on this.
Thank God. I'm so sorry that I'm challenged
It's okay.
with this kind of stuff. It's terrible. But thank you so much first for having me, Jennifer, and of course, Derek. I really appreciate it. And to be with the sisters here that are so phenomenal is just really satisfying to me. I just wanted to share with the group that we have come some way, but as everyone has said and echoed each other, it's certainly not enough. There's still more negative images out there than positive. But one of the things that really gets me hot and bothered is that we as a community, as one of the sisters was talking about unity, we still are so afraid to help one another, you know? And so in this struggle, we have to understand that it's okay to help each other. It's okay to give each other that inroads into that particular job or that field. And we shouldn't feel apprehensive about it or think that some way, if we help each other, someone's going to say, oh, they're being racist or they're doing this. We have to get past that. And we have to understand that we have an obligation when we get into those boardrooms and we get into those courtrooms or wherever we get to. It is okay to lift a brother or a sister up and make sure that we're well represented. And in fact, it is our duty to do that. And so, you know, we will continue not to be up where we need to be and be portrayed the way we want to, as long as we're frightened to help each other when we get to those locations or we don't help each other. And so, for instance, in my courthouse, I have internships. I make sure that I have interns that are from my community. Have I given internships to others? Absolutely. Do I give preference to brothers and sisters and other folks? Absolutely, because it is my responsibility. And so that at the end of the day, when I meet my maker, I could say that I really try to reach back and bring us all in. And so what happens is when we do that, we'll start seeing that we make those moves. We'll see more. You sit into that boardroom, and even if you're the only one in there, you're saying, I want some representation here. I remember one time, and this is one of my favorite artists, Phyllis Hyman. She did something one day. She was doing, I forget what it was, but she sat in the room and she did not see a Black person in the room, and she refused to do the business. She said, I'm not really going to do business here or whatever until you get some faces in here that look like me, because that's what I'm demanding. And so I think as we grow and we understand that it's okay to reach back and bring ourselves into those rooms and bar none and not feel bad like we're doing something terrible, then we really won't change the way we're portrayed and in those industries until we are comfortable with getting in those positions and then taking some folks there and saying, I'm not going to work unless I see some of my people around this table. We just have to do that. And I think as we do that, we may be able to do better. So we have made some progress. I mean, you'd have to be crazy to say we didn't do anything. You're seeing some better portrayals and all of this stuff, but it's certainly not enough. And God knows that the powers that be are still there, putting forth movies and magazines and different things that show us in a terrible light. And so we have a lot more work to do. And that work involves helping each other and not being ashamed to do it and saying, that's right, I want these people here. I want to do that, and they've got to be here. So thank you for allowing me to speak a little bit, and I appreciate it. And for what the sisters have said, I've learned some stuff already, and I celebrate all the sisters, young and old, on this panel tonight.
And thank you so much. You know, we have a comment from Aubrey Gordon, and you know, she makes a very valid point to what you're saying, Judge Johnson. And she's saying that, you know, we're used to there being limited spots, limited seats for us, and so it's bred this competition where now we're competing for the one seat, the one spot that's there. And now, you know, we find ourselves leaving each other out and excluding each other, and not trying to be the village, to make demands as a group to elevate us entirely. So, you know, did you want to say anything about that, the competition that exists among us?
Yeah, I think, again, I don't know that it's competition or that it's just like we think one person is good enough or we got one in there. You know, I went to a Martin Luther King Day celebration at a church one year, and the brother pastor got up there and said, the fact that we could still be talking about the first anything is very, very sad in a 2019, 2020. Oh, we got the first. Yes, we celebrate it. But when you look at it, it's still so terrible and so sad that we have the first anything at this stage. And so you really have to, you don't want to say that we haven't made strides, because it just seems like you're just not thankful at all. But we should understand that saying the first anything is terrible. So we shouldn't compete. We should say, I'm in here, but I'm going to get a few more with me. You know what I mean? Recently in Yonkers, New York, I live in Mount Vernon, but in Yonkers, there was a judge race, and there were two sisters that were running in addition to some other white men, and both sisters got in. And it was great because that Yonkers City Court has never had a Black female judge. And in this election, we got two of them. How great. And we should have 3 and 4. And I'll say this to say, you know, we have indoctrinated ourselves into a lot of fields where it was all white and no one complained. And I remember one year I said, you know, I wanted to be a judge. I wanted to do this. And one of my mentors said, well, we can't have all Black people, you know. And I said, but why? We've always had all white something. So why is it if we had 3 Black judges in a Black city like Mount Vernon, that's a problem? It is what it is. So we can't be ashamed or scared to have something where we might be. So it's not that we're competing. I think we just satisfied with the one, like we got one in, so that's it. No, damn it, we got one in, but we can have 5 more in, and I'm going to get them in. And we got one in, but now we're going to get 6 more. And so I don't think we compete per se. I just think that we get satisfied with having the one, but we really should understand that the more we have, the merrier. So yes, ma'am.
Yes, so we have to continue to work and build and open those doors for each other. I want to move into our second main question of the night. And it's, you know, with social media becoming so popular, so widespread, has social media actually helped or has it hurt our advancement in mainstream media? I'm just repeating it again, has social media helped or hurt the advancement of young Black women in mainstream media, on television, film, radio, print? Trinae?
I read a debate the other day, and there were women who disliked the heightened sexualization of Meg Thee Stallion and Cardi, and then there were other women that spoke to the liberation of, you know, female women rappers, and particularly how, you know, male rappers have always rapped about certain things, and now it's women's turn. And for someone who is modest in my dress and style and apparel, and that's just who I am, but also in the political field, oftentimes it is challenging when there are caricatures or stereotypes of women, particularly Black women, that we sort of spoke about earlier, objectify us, our power, our authority, and also speaks to what we deem to be beautiful and what we deem to be liberating. You know, for me, it was liberating to wear my afro and my power suit and my sneakers, you know, at my council meeting. That was a liberating experience for me. But right after that, one of the most when the hot topic was amongst Gen Z young women were like, well, part of me feels like as much as I love Cardi as a rapper and her story, it's also really difficult to hail her as someone that I look up to because of some of her styling choices. And so I think when you have images, particularly of Black women, depicted in highly sexualized ways, it continues to play up to, you know, caricatures and to the horrific life of someone like Sarah Bartman, you know, who was in a human circus, who was picked and prodded because of her overemphasized body parts, you know, or some of the images where we have been depicted as women where our breasts were sort of overemphasized for entertainment and pleasure rather than, you know, to help produce life. And that oftentimes is challenging for me to even while being relevant in with today's time to and with the individuals that young people look up to, it is often challenging politically to speak to what is liberating for women, or what liberation looks like in policy when there are certain images that trigger or negatively impact the way in which we are saying women are educated, women are fierce,
right?
And also they're to be respected.
You know, Trinae, you mentioned Meg Thee Stallion and you mentioned Cardi B. I want to turn to our ambassadors. They're between the ages of 16 and 26. What do you all think about this? Do you think that what you're seeing in social media is helping or hurting, you know, our advancement as Black women? Let's see. I'll ask Mercedes.
Okay, so I just want to thank everyone for being here. I'm taking a lot of notes in my phone because this conversation is just really, it's really empowering and it's just a lot to take in, and I really want to soak it in. So thank you everyone for speaking and like just being your authentic selves and sharing your experiences with us. So I want to reference Meg Thee Stallion and Cardi B when they came out with that song WAP. There was a lot of debate around like it being, you know, too raunchy, too revealing, but also like Trinae was saying, very liberating. But something that Trinae brought up that made me think was, you know, what may be liberating to someone else may not be liberating to another person. And when I think about like the role that social media plays in today's world, so many girls, not only women, have access to this. And I think it's important that with whatever is being put out, like depending on the age range or whatever child or young girl is seeing this information, it's very important to have a conversation about what is being shown, because unfortunately, like we can't censor everything. And that's just where we are with today's social media. So I don't know, it's really having me in my thoughts right now, like around, you know, what we put out there, because for like Trinae said, for some women that is liberating, and for some women that's not. And it's just
So sorry to cut you, Mercedes, but that's part of why we're having these conversations, to get the wheels turning, for us to start really thinking deeper about, you know, what we're being exposed to, what we're taking in, why we're thinking the way we're thinking, why we are behaving the way we're behaving, what is influencing us, what is actually happening. Because what ends up happening is that we're walking through life, we're living life, and we're not even realizing the things that are having subliminal influences on us as women and as Black women. So thank you for that, Amina.
Oh, Tiffany, if I can just say something, because This is great. This is a great conversation. I think that we just, though, need to bring it down a notch. It's not just Meg Thee Stallion. It's not just Cardi B. It's not just Beyonce when we talk about social media. It is any one of us, what we put up and how it influences, informs, and shapes another's mindset of who they are and what they should be. I said to, my niece on several occasions, I thank God that I am 52 years old and that, that I am with a partner who I love and adore, and I've been with him for 27 years, because I can't even begin to imagine what it would be like to be, 24, 26, 28, 32, 35, back out there and like trying to be on the dating scene and engage, because you got to go through so much today to be glamorous, to look like you're walking the runway, as Beyonce is, just to go on a date. It's like, and social media has done that. You can't step out the house without looking, like when I was in college, I used to talk about it as, walking the dog. You got to be walking the dog all the time. And you all like, what the heck does that mean? It's like, you have to be glamorous at all times. You got to, like, your front lace has got to be hooked, right? Or your braids have got to be straight. And, you can't be stepping out there without the eyelashes, an inch long, right? Like, I can't tell you how many times I've just gone like for a makeover because I'm doing something for an event or something. And it used to be that my lashes were long enough. Now my natural lashes, oh, you got to have lashes. And it's not just Beyonce or Meg Thee Stallion. It's not just, it's what we've done to each other by what we put up on social media that is now creating the norm and the standard
But
for what beauty looks like.
But who's creating that standard when
we're doing it to each other because we're playing into it?
Right. So
we are believing that, that when Halle Berry went to, I think it was the Grammys, and she had her natural hair and she got beat up. She got beat up on social media for wearing her hair naturally because she wasn't rocking it the right way. She didn't have the right products. It wasn't good enough that she was just wearing natural hair. It had to be tight. It had to be just right. When Beyonce cut the weave out and went natural, she got beat up by us because she was not as beautiful without the long blonde weave. And she went and she put it right back in. So it's us. We're doing it to each other. Why are we now, Black women, going and getting our butts cupped? Right? Because the butt's got to be lifted and it's got to be tight and it's got to look just right. We are everyday people doing this to ourselves.
Well, let me bring in Dr. Jamila Codrington, because she is a psychologist. And can you speak to this? Can you speak to this idea that we're doing this to each other? We're shooting each other down, or we're looking at each other and now we're feeding into it and just perpetuating the same, ideologies and lifestyles. What do you have to say about that?
Yes, thank you, Sister Tiffany, and good evening, queens and kings. I am happy to be in this conversation this evening. And, there's so many things. I wish I was able to participate from the beginning, but there's so many things that I think we have to first understand from the standpoint of psychology. And hopefully that's the lens that I will bring this evening and offer to the dialogue. Psychology inside of this topic connects to the idea of internalized oppression, right? And we want to, for me, I like to make sure that we understand, how did we get here? How did we get to the point where our butts are not big enough, or they have to be lifted, or our eyelashes, have to look like a claw, for us to feel like we can have, a good beat face at the party? How do we get to that point? And it can look on the surface, I think, like we are doing it to ourselves, but we haven't done anything to ourselves when it comes to the ways in which our true beauty, our sense of cultural pride in our natural godly expression has been distorted. And it's been distorted by design. And it's been sold to us, and we bought it. And we bought it because we have been conditioned to believe in the lie of Black inferiority. And until we recognize that, we can be very quick to judge individuals, right? And we can be very quick to sort of think about the fact that somebody, you know, is not good enough because they haven't sort of shifted their aesthetic to look in this way, or they can be judged in the opposite way where, oh, look at them, you know, they've adopted white standards of beauty, and you know, you have the individuals that are, you know, fully sold out to natural hair and natural everything, and we get into this process of tearing each other down, but we're all on different ends of the continuum in terms of this internalized oppression. And we want to understand that we didn't get here by ourselves. And so I like to think about, just to go back to this question of social media, nothing is inherently good or bad for anything, you know, and sometimes I think we get into these false dualities. And I think it's all dependent on how are we using it? Are we using it in the service of spreading culturally affirming messages? You know, if you go on Instagram, there are so many people who are curating pictures of beautiful Black women in all different shapes and sizes, natural, unbelievable, like the full spectrum, right? But the beauty of it is that we have a choice that we get to curate our own bodies and our own art form, and we get to say what's beautiful. And it is about controlling our own images and the narrative. And the one thing about social media is, if it is used properly, you know, look at the power of a hashtag, Black Girl Magic. All of a sudden, we have a whole movement around our greatness, right? That has been curated. And then we also have people who are consuming toxic images of over-sexualized Black femininity, right? Or Black femininity that's used as a tool to get something, you know, as a source of power, right? And so, like anything else, I think we have to be careful of how we use it, but we want to exploit the power of it. Yeah. And we want to recognize that it's really important to understand that we have to decolonize our mind first. And we have to recognize that this is done by design. And, you know, the first step is recognizing that we are not here just as women, but we are here as a reflection of our divinity.
Dr.
And when we,
oh, sorry.
I need to respond to what you're saying. What Dr. Janoli may not know about me is that I am very much involved in like for decades, anti-poverty work and anti-racism work. And I very much understand and appreciate and embrace appreciate internalized racism and internalized oppression. When I say that we are doing this to ourselves, I very much understand the root of why we are where we are and what we believe. What I'm talking about is when we look at social media and we see that, you know, okay, these women are doing this. They're buying into the notion of it. And now I feel I've got to do it too in order to look as good. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not saying where did it originate or we started it ourselves. But when Cardi B has the, you know, or Cardi B has the blown up behind, and now Black women are thinking that their behind isn't good enough if it's not that blown up. And then this Black girl over here goes and gets it. we're not necessarily leaning in and appreciating our own worth and value, and we're adopting what these others are telling us, other Black women are telling us is now the standard. So that's my concern.
I think you know, both points are valid, because you have to look at it from terms of where it stemmed from one aspect, because I took a multicultural class and they had something that said how Black women are the least attractive and the least likely to be married, the least likely to be desired in her lifetime out of all other cultures. She would be, and that even includes the Black men not finding her desirable, or you know, wanting to bond with her or be her partner. So she suffers from that alone. Her self-esteem has been beat up for hundreds and hundreds of years. So now we fast forward to more current. Then you had gotten to the point where Black women who had huge behinds, who was known to have huge behinds and huge breasts, they were looked at as freaks. They put them on the freak show, on the freak circuit at some point in time in life. So now, no one would even, like, if you wasn't skinny like Twiggy, you wasn't considered attractive. Right. So now everyone's running out. So now all the Black women now, they started wearing weaves and anything that you could say outside of what we would do, our natural norm, because they found that their men were more attracted to that versus who their authentic self is. So when you were wearing your afros or your natural hair, you can't get these guys are running out for the Kim Kardashians and that crew. So these women are, as Black women, we want to compete and feel desired as a woman. So to me, it's kind of like, I don't want to say compete, but they want to be desired. They want to be seen, and they, you know, it's lonely out here. They want to be loved. They want somebody to give them attention. So they go and they buy the weaves, and that other girl is getting more attention than me, which is fine, but I want to do what she's doing because I want to get the same attention she's getting when I walk out the room, and I want to feel a certain kind of way, and I want to feel like a superstar, you know. And in terms of, so now you got that generation, but now you turn around and then all of the Caucasian girls and every other girl have butts now. They have boobs and butts. So now that makes it, now they're attractive. But before it wasn't attractive, but now it is attractive. So now our self-esteem has been tugged on for so long that we're just lost. And we can't, like, it's hard for us to compete. It looks like we're pitting against each other, but we're not. We're really like, well, show me, if she could do it, I could do it too. And that's where we are. I know one of my nieces, she got everything done under the moon, and it was just disturbing because she's so beautiful prior to all the work.
Siobhan, thank you for that. And following up, you know, with Dr. Codrington, which is where this all has gone, Naylin, one of our ambassadors, she wanted to say something. Naylin, you can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Oh, thank you. I just wanted to add on what Dr. Jamila was talking about social media and how it affects you. Because me, I'm 17, basically my whole entire life. I've been around social media. I got my own like Instagram when I was like in 4th grade or something like that. So it's always been around me and it always affected me. I think over the years of going through middle school and high school and things like that, it's affected me in other ways. I think I agree with her when she says it's not all good or all bad. It definitely affects you in a different way depending on how you think about yourself and how strong you are in loving yourself and knowing who you are. Because I think when I was in middle school, I was in a predominantly white institution. So I was the only Black person in my grade, and I wasn't surrounded around other Black people to really know, I guess, who I am. And I think social media and other things like that affected me a lot more because I didn't really know what to think of myself or how I should be or something like that, or how I should represent other Black women or something like that. So, but when I got to high school and I was surrounded in a more diverse community with other Black people and on social media, it really plays into like what you like. Your feed is what from people who you follow and other things like that. Yes, it's like slightly affected by like mainstream media, but mostly it's by what you surround yourself with. So with going into high school and things like that, I surrounded myself with a lot more pages of other females that are Black, that are creators or things like that, or influencers. And I think that helped me a lot in just learning who I am and like gaining more confidence in that. And now like I don't really have a problem with social media. I enjoy it more to look at other like examples, and it's great to have like a balance. When Miss Jennifer was talking about like it's not just Cardi B, it's not just Meg The Stallion, like I can enjoy that music mostly because I think I have more of a secure like sense of like who I am. So like I don't feel the need to be that, but I can still enjoy what they're doing, even though that's not exactly like who I am. So I think it's good to have like a balance in social media and things like that.
Thank you, Naylin. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us on that.
She has her head on right. 17 years old, you have your head on right. You have to be confident in who you are and what it is that you want to do. I remember when I got my first position as a manager, I believe I was like 26 years old. And that's quite young to be a manager and to be a Black manager. And I told you I'm 70. So can you imagine what I looked like when I was 26? I looked like you, Naylin. I mean, I looked like I was like 12 years old. And I had an uncle, Uncle Robert, Flora Haynes's husband, told me, you're now going to have your first managerial position. You're going to meet men who will be sitting in corner offices with cigars, big mahogany desks, and you're always going to feel as if they are more, that you'll be intimidated by them. He said, don't ever be intimidated by anybody. Have confidence in yourself, because if you take off his clothes, everyone has 9 holes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That takes care of the top half of the body. If you feel intimidated, then you just think of them naked behind that desk. They're no better than you, and you are no better than them. Have confidence in yourself and who you are and where it is that you want to go, and you will succeed.
Yes.
I was 20-something years old. I have met a lot of people in the years that I have come, up in the entertainment industry, and I had never been intimidated by anyone. You know how people become, oh, Carly B, with me, even today, even though he's dead, it was Prince. Oh my God. But I mean, I've met people, I've met a lot of different people, but I've been in rooms and I have said, I am not intimidated by anybody. Thanks to my Uncle Robert. Don't let anybody intimidate you, and make sure that you have confidence in yourself. You have to be confident in yourself. If you're not confident in yourself, and I mean, with this social media thing, anything that you put on social media, if you write it out, if you can write it on the front page of the New York Times, then you're okay. If you think that it's going to come back and bite you, don't write it. This is you. This is for you. This is not, anybody. This is for you and the kind of person that you want to put out there to show who you are, because people will go back and look at your social media when you go and look for a job.
Yes, that's absolutely true.
They will go back and look. If don't have anything on there that you're going to be sorry, oh my God, why did I put that there? No.
And that's
you.
Wisdom. That's wisdom right there. Thank you, Ms. Jackson. And before we move into our last question, Derek acknowledged you, Ms. Jackson, but I also want to take a moment to acknowledge you, because you did exactly what Judge Johnson talked about in terms of paying it forward and reaching back and investing in our young women. And through Talented Teens, you and Mr. Jackson, you guys did that for me. You all were my first encounter with Black wealth. And you took me to London, you took me to Paris, and you exposed me to things that I had never been exposed to before at that point in my life. And it was life changing. It really was life changing. And even though I went on to compete in Miss America, what happened, the experience that I had with Hal Jackson's Talented Teen truly impacted me in such a way that it will forever change my life. So thank you for being one of those women who have paid it forward, and you reach back and you touch so many of us, so many of us. And I just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you so much.
And I'm still doing it. So if there's anybody out there who is entering college next year in September, look us up, Youth Development Foundation. I award scholarships every year to young ladies. After their first semester of college, they have to maintain a 3.0 or better, but you have to fill out the application prior. We send scholarships. I'll send $1,000 scholarship to help you out.
Well, amen to that. Thank you, Ms. Jackson. And she actually, I went to CUNY, I went to Brooklyn College, and a long time ago.
Right, you got 5,000, didn't you?
Right, I did. And that took care of my tuition back then. So thank you so much for that. So I want to ask you all now, as we move into our last question, at any point in your life, can you say that mainstream media has impacted your self-concept? Self-concept is how you think about yourself, what you believe about yourself, how you evaluate yourself. That's your self-concept. At any point in your life, has it impacted your self-concept? Mainstream media, that is, we're talking about. Anyone want to jump in on that? Amina?
Hey everyone. First of all, I just want to say I'm overly grateful for everybody's words that they have shared so far. It was really touching, honestly. Still trying to kind of soak it in, honestly. But I mean, like mainstream media per se, I don't really know for sure yet, but I know with social media, it definitely has, because of just the way that we're representing ourselves. Because I would say like, you have a choice whether you could go down a bad path with how you represent yourself or a good path. So like with the bad path, there's people that overly sexualize themselves and just try to sell sex. So like OnlyFans, for example. And then you have people who start their own business. So like, I don't know. It depends on like which road you want to take or look at.
Okay, Ashley, has social media or mainstream media impacted your self-concept in any way, would you say?
Yeah, I would say growing up, it wasn't more so like about like my skin color per se. It was more so about I would say my natural hair, or like I struggled with acne and I still kind of do. So just more so not seeing people that look like me in like a normal sense, I would say. Like I felt the need even in college, like I'd be in my dorm and friends would come over, and if I'm like dressed for bed, like I feel the need to like change or like put foundation on and things like that. And I think it was what I was seeing and like what I was influenced by. I always felt like growing up, like when I would even go on auditions, like when I was trying to act, that my headshot didn't look like me in person. So like I was already like, before going into an audition, I'm like, I'm doomed, because once they see me in person, I don't exactly look like this. My skin's not nearly as flawless as it is in like this photo. And I don't feel like I had like the best shot. So I would say, yeah, it did, especially like I said, like back in the day, like on television, the shows we watch on Disney and Nickelodeon, you didn't really see Black people in general, but also like, I don't know, like any type of like just regular teenagers or like young women that look like us, like on an everyday basis.
Thank you, Ashley. I want to ask some more of our ambassadors, and then I want Dr. Codrington to speak to this if you can. Kayla, what would you say? Has mainstream media or social media impacted your self-concept at any point?
I think it's more so social media. You see so many things, and kind of like what we were speaking about prior, it's like you see these women with these bodies, and you see these women with, again, you think that this is their skin or this is how they look naturally, but really these are filters, these are makeup. Like this is, it's not the real them. And I feel like for a while, I personally would just get so caught up in just wanting to be perfect because this is what you're seeing on social media. You know, it's just this idea of just being the most beautiful, of being, you know, looking the best with your figure, with your shape. And sometimes if you don't really have like for a young woman that is not confident within themselves, or, you know, thinks that that's the norm, it can be a little challenging. But I think for me personally, I've just grown to just embrace like how God has created me. And, you know, I joke with like my friends and stuff, like, let's go back to the 90s when, like, you know, Halle Berry was like Halle Berry, Nia Long, Sanaa Lathan, like we all admired these naturally beautiful Black women, and they didn't have to have the eyelashes, or Nalia, they didn't have to have the eyelashes. It wasn't all about the weave, you know, you know, their bodies, we accepted them. Yes, they were slimmer, but I mean, I am slim. So, you know, I look at them and I'm like, oh my God, like, you know, I miss this. Like, why can't we go back to that? I remember when men used to think that these were the most beautiful women. You know, our Black men, they thought that these were the beautiful women. And now it's like, we're in a time where like, if your body isn't done, or if you don't look a certain way, it's like, you know, so I think I still know that that was once accepted. And I believe that once you have that confidence within yourself, and that comes more so, I think, from experience, that can shape you. But I feel kind of nervous sometimes for these young women and these young teenagers growing up, because again, like Naylin, who's 17, all she's had is social media. You know, thank God she's a grounded young woman, but for those women who don't have that, it's kind of difficult for them.
And it's, you know, you're speaking to the time that we're in, because I'm speaking about mainstream media, but a lot of you are not even really watching or participating in mainstream media. You're doing everything on social media. You're not flipping through pages of magazines. You're flipping through your phones, right? So, you know, I think that says a lot about how you all are impacted. I just want to ask one more person before I have you speak to this, Dr. Codrington. Tatiana, how would you answer this question?
Hi everybody. I agree with what everybody said. Kayla, 100% to the T. Like, I agree. Another point that I feel like hasn't really been mentioned as far as your self-concept being influenced by social media, besides the looks, for me, I graduated from college 4 years ago, and all I see on social media is people posting these careers, and they're moving into houses and these cars and all these things, and it's just like, oh my gosh, like I'm not ready for any of that stuff yet. And like you feel like you're not doing enough, or you're not, like you're lacking in things, and it's just like I'm still in my 20s, I still have a whole lifetime to go. And it took me a while to realize, like, okay, I got my career set, I'm doing what I have to do, but I still don't look like what those people are posting on social media. And it really affects you until you like really look at the bigger picture. Like a lot of these things aren't facts, a lot of these things aren't true, and you have to really be true to yourself and really like realize what you have and what you've worked for, and realize, you know what, like this is what I have, and I know what my goals are. And just because that person has that, or they're posting that they have this, or that their life is how it is, that doesn't mean that that's my path, or that what they're doing is the right way to do it, or their speed. Like somebody said to me one time, life is a marathon, not a race. So it's not about how fast you get there, as long as you get there, basically. So that's what I kind of meant.
Thank you, Tatiana.
Hey, Tiffany, to that point, just really quickly, you know, I think it's important to also realize that a lot of like you just mentioned, it's just like a lot of that is not real. You know, a lot of that that made up and fictional, those pictures and things like that. When you peel back the layers, that's one thing that I like to do with young women that I mentor, is like I make sure that they peel back the layers and have confidence in yourself and be your authentic self. Because far too often people might see me out in the field or see me on television and say, oh my gosh, Talitha, you've got perfect skin and you've got, this is perfect, perfect, perfect. And I'm like, no, I'm not. Literally, I will do Facebook Lives with no makeup on, and I'm putting on my makeup before the newscast. So young women can see like all of what you see, this face that you think is so beat, there's pimples, there's blotches, there's everything is like, I mean, I had braces, my teeth were crooked. Like you have to literally be so, you know, as many of the ladies on here were mentioning, like people are thinking you have to be so perfect, but you have to be confident in your God-given gifts, talents, and abilities. Like we are all made so uniquely different, and that's what makes us so beautiful in our own right. Your beauty is different than my beauty. Your talents are different than mine. And just continue to surround yourself with women who would easily represent you or bring your name up in a room full of opportunities, because every opportunity may not be for you, but also showing women that when you peel back the layers, when I'm getting ready before a newscast and I'm saying, hey guys, hope you're going to tune in today, but here's our top stories. I'm literally, you know, I'm putting on my own mini newscast before the newscast to tell people like, here's what's going on. But I also want them to see that I'm just like you know, I just peeling back the layers, letting people see your authentic and real self also gives confidence to other women coming behind you too, and other young ladies to say, oh, okay, she's confident in being raw and natural, and be confident in that beauty too as well.
And thank you for that, Talitha. Thank you for being that example to our ambassadors and to the young people on young women on this Zoom meeting. This is so priceless. The women that we have here with us, and you know, between Jennifer and Siobhan and Miss Jackson and Dr. Codrington and Judge Nichelle, and I gotta switch through so I don't leave anyone out, Tatiana and Diamond and Trinae. I mean, these are really accomplished women that, you know, to be able to learn from them and to hear from them, and for you all to pour into our young women. I'm so grateful. Derek and I, we are so grateful that you have chosen to be here with us tonight and be a part of this, because these moments are the life-changing moments. When we can hear from women like you all, it's life-changing. So thank you all for your input. Dr. Codrington, how can we use mainstream media and social media to actually empower the self-concept?
Yes, you know, there's so many jewels that have been dropped just in relation to people's personal narratives. And I want to just highlight those first. To me, there's been a theme that has cut across many of the commentary this evening that really has to do with this idea of ensuring that you have knowledge of self, right? So I think before anything else, and we think about this as sort of in traditional African culture, knowledge of self is first and foremost. You know, it is the primary task of life. And we may not have said it in those words, but some of the young sisters are talking about the fact that, you know, I knew that I didn't want to necessarily go down this path, right? This felt more comfortable for me. I curated my Instagram page, the young 17-year-old sister, you know, I curated my page because this was what made sense to me, right? So I'm hearing inside of that knowledge of self, knowledge of self, knowledge of self. And if we don't have an authentic understanding of who we are, then we will adopt whatever is the conditioning of the day, right? And so I think it's really important for caregivers, for mentors, for women in leadership position, for father figures, to really inculcate our daughters, you know, not only our personal daughters, but our community daughters, so that they understand who and whose they are, right? And so the understanding, I was thinking about the question prior to this of, well, what was my life like? And, you know, the most important thing for me was actually to be like my mom, you know, which that's like a big thing nowadays, you know, but I wanted to be just like her, or I wanted to be like the people on my block. Like the block held power, you know, and like if everybody in my crew was doing something, but it was curated, and so they were like handpicked who we got to socialize with, the kinds of things that were the places that we would go. And so all of these things speak to the idea of defining oneself based on your own natural essence and your authentic understanding. And to do that, I think we have to create our own cultural products. This is why Boniface is so important. This is why the OWN network is so important. This is why back in the day, Jet Magazine and Essence, these platforms that allow us to control the narrative. So even if you don't have a healthy model at home, what you are consuming is still in alignment with your natural self. So I think that first, controlling our own cultural products and taking back the power of the conditioning so that we are ensuring that, we are celebrating the things that matter to us and that are authentic to us. The other thing is, I think we need to have a paradigm shift in which our self-worth and our value is based on service. It's not based on our physical and external attributes, but our service to family, our service to community, and our service to spirit, our service to a higher power or to divine purpose. And that's something that is a cultural value that I think has been lost. Well, it's not been lost, it's been eroded. It's been eroded. And I think we are at a point where we want to regain that, and we want to engage young people in more acts of service that are meaningful to other people, so that their self-esteem is not based on themselves as a singular person, but their connection to community. So some people may have heard the concept of Ubuntu, I am because we are. So that's the definition of ensuring that how I establish my sense of worth or value is not based on myself, Jamila Codrington, but it's based on, have I served in any capacity that has made a contribution, and so really bringing that piece back. And then thinking about ways that we can help to teach girls and young women, young adults, how to use their bodies besides as a sexual object. And I think this is a piece that really speaks to the importance of teaching this simple value of the body being a vessel, right? And so as a vessel, it can serve a lot of purposes, but how can we use it in a way that the goal is not necessarily to show it off, just to show it off, but engaging young people young girls in athletics, in dance, in other types of movement, so that when they think about their body is a tool, but not for the purposes of sexual expression, but for a wide range of things. I remember growing up, I used to be teased because I was so skinny, and I always looked like I was younger than my age, and, lots of jokes. But I remember my self-concept was protected because I ran track and it supported me, that frame supported me. And I also danced. And so if I didn't have those things to fall back on, and I was just comparing my worth to how much boys liked me, it would have crushed my self-esteem. It would have completely crushed me. So really thinking about building in other ways of using one's body, and dance and sports athletics, I think, are two great ones.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So, were you going to say something else?
I was, very quickly, unless we're like really short on time, and then I can end there.
Well, we have 9 minutes left, and I want to make sure that we honor the 9 o'clock end time. So what I want to do, if I may, and if we have time to come back to it right afterwards, we will. But I want to ask all of our panelists, just very briefly, if you could say it in one sentence or one word, what has been the greatest influence on your self concept? Jennifer, I guess I can go around based on how I see you all. If there's been a single, Jennifer's like, one thing, I don't know about one thing. No, but what would you say is the greatest influence on your self concept, or what has been throughout your life? Everyone think about it. I want our panelists. I'm going to come to everyone.
You know, I'm privileged in the sense that I had a very prominent and powerful father, social justice and civil rights leader, internationally renowned. I grew up 2 doors down from Shirley Chisholm. You know, like the social justice leaders of the last 50 years were at my dinner table. And then I have a mother who, you know, defied dominant and domineering Black men and white men. And so I had in parents people who had found their truths and lived their truths. They struggled. They themselves had self-esteem issues from time to time, but I was raised by 2 people who believed in me, and from a very early age told me that I was enough. Not to say that I don't at 52 years of age still wonder sometimes, am I enough?
Right.
Happens all the time. But my foundation was with people who made me believe from the very beginning that I mattered.
Thank you. Thank you. Siobhan?
Thank you. I think because of my own personal experience growing up from a broken family and moving around a lot. And when I was young, I didn't know it then, but I know it now. I was fearless. I didn't understand the word fear, didn't see that concept at all, ever. So that helped me push myself towards being, you know, accomplished. But comes fear, through that fear, it taught me also how to survive. So when you talk about surviving, you have to know how to survive physically, mentally, and emotionally, and spiritually. If you don't have your armors up and you're not able to survive the fear that you may have and become fearless, that consumes you and it breaks you down to some degree. So I feel thankful that all of the experience that I may have viewed as negative, and to be honest with you, I didn't even know it was negative until I got older. Oh, that happened. I was a little naive, but I understand now that I because I was fearless and I was a survivor, that was my protection. And that's what helped me become more successful in all the things that I do.
Thank you. Trinae?
I would definitely say being raised by strong women. My mom, my grandma, my aunts. Service was just in their DNA. My grandmother would go to communities that were malnourished. She would make sure that women had what they needed. They would bring mobile mammogram screenings to communities that were overlooked. And you know, oftentimes I have to reflect on that because politics wasn't my preferred field. In the beginning of last year, I actually left my career as an actress to pursue politics because that's where I felt like God was leading me. So, kind of similar to what Tatiana said, I graduated from college 4 years ago. So I was like sitting at the feet of elders up here because, you know, I'm also new to this in this space, and I'm only 26 myself. You know, so but I'm grateful for their legacy. And I'm also grateful for a father that affirmed my beauty and was not intimidated by the strength of my mom. It helped me to know the type of man that is for me. And also, too, the type of man that is secure in his masculinity to support my mom, who's really, really strong. And that, you know, I often tell my grandmother I'm the blossoming of her seeds. She ran for office in the 60s. And on her poster, she wore her afro. So, you know, that legacy to me really, it shaped me as a young woman. And even as I am heading into real adult life, it's been the foundation of, you know, my life.
Thank you, Trinae. We have about 3 minutes left. Judge Johnson.
Yes, ma'am. Oh boy, when I tell you, uh, born in Harlem, raised in the South Bronx, a lot of factors. I have to say that it's an interesting thing. I think my story is God was always there. And in certain respects, I had a father who was a Vietnam veteran who died of AIDS. My mother had to raise us in a single family home. She did the best she could do. She was Puerto Rican, didn't speak the language when she came here, but then got indoctrinated. I had a lot of elements, but I have to say that in my schooling in the South Bronx, I was in special classes the entire my entire preliminary years in school, meaning they used to have these intellectually gifted programs for children that they felt were gifted. And I have to say that the teachers that taught me at that time were God sent because they were really there teaching, and they were not Black teachers. And I say it was God sent because God has a way of making people serve you. And so in my schooling, and then of course I had great family members, I had great grandparents, you know, my mother did the best she can do, but I was able to be reinforced through the schooling that I had with those teachers that took their job seriously. And so for anyone that wants to get into teaching and their teachers, a teacher is so important. And then, of course, I did have family background and people who pushed despite our circumstances. So I would have to say between the good school teachers that I had and some supportive family members vis-a-vis my grandparents who covered down where my father could not, or where my mother had, you know, some issues, I was able to shine and to go forward and become who I am. And so I thank you for allowing me to share. It's an interesting story, the things that I went through, but God has always been there. To me, God blesses us with the angels he puts around us by our parents, teachers, different people. And that's the truth.
Thank you. Thank you, Judge Johnson. It's 8:59. I know that Dr. Codrington has to leave us, you know, now. So I just wanted to, before you hop off, we're finishing up, we're wrapping up, but I know you have a hard stop. Thank you so much for being a part of this conversation, for, you know, just lending your expertise, your experience, and just for being here and for pouring into all of us. Thank you so much. Okay.
Thank you for the invitation to both of you. And I do want to, I hope that these conversations continue. So it was a pleasure, and I do hope that the conversation continues to stimulate everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. And we're going to be doing a whole piece on this in the magazine, The Conversation. We're recording it. We're doing a whole feature on this conversation and everyone who's a part of it. So again, thank you, everyone. Ms. Jackson, what has influenced your self-concept?
Well, my parents, and mostly my mother, who's here now, she's 92 years old. She told me to treat people the way that you want to be treated. And that meant a lot to me, especially once I married my husband. We were married for 25 years, 25 wonderful years. And he was bigger than life, but one of the humblest persons that you could ever meet. And he taught me how to be humble. My mom taught me to treat people the way you want to be treated. And then it came back at me with him. So I would say that those two, you know, treat people the way you want to be treated.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson. Aretha.
Well, for me, it goes back to my parents, who are immigrants from Jamaica, and they came to this country basically with nothing, and they instilled in me a lot when it pertains to taking risks and how important it is to push yourself, to take risks, and to also make sure that as you develop and find your gifts, talents, and abilities, also make sure that people don't put you in a box, because far too often people will say, well, this is what you can do and that's it. So for me, that meant not just being a good writer, not just being a good athlete, not just, you know, speaking well on television. That meant also having a sense of community and bringing other people along with me along the way. So for me, that entrepreneurial spirit, I really got that from my parents. So, you know, I know a lot of people always say Jamaicans have like 10 jobs, but for me, just tapping into the other talents that you have is something that I would encourage all the women on this call to, you know, don't give up on your dreams. And just because you're doing one thing one way doesn't mean that you can't pivot and find other unique forms of expressing yourself through your God-given talents and abilities. So that would sum it up for me.
Thank you, Talitha.
I have one more thing. One more thing that Hal taught me. He said that a clenched fist cannot receive. As long as you're holding on to things, nothing will come your way. Once you give out, it comes back to you tenfold.
Right.
A clenched fist cannot receive. He had so many sayings. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson. A clenched fist
cannot receive. It can. Whoops. Where am I? Okay. Whoops. Where am I?
We see you.
Oh, you can hear me?
We can hear you and see you.
Clenched fist cannot receive, because as long as it's like this, nothing can come in.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Jackson. Thank you for some more wisdom. Tatiana. Wait, you're muted.
I wasn't sure which Tatiana you're talking to.
Oh, sorry, Tatiana Yomari. Sorry, our panelist, Tatiana Yomari.
Okay. I feel for me, it really started with my father. Like, he raised me. He's no longer with us, but he just raised me to be a strong woman, to be someone that's not afraid of taking challenges, and to be someone that can rise up against adversity. I feel like at times we kind of envision how our lives are supposed to be. And, oh, I'm going to be this reporter, I'm going to move up, I'm going to become an editor in chief. But sometimes along the way, God puts obstacles in our way to kind of teach us, to make us better than the version that we even expected to be. And that's one of the things that my father always instilled in me. So I always make sure to keep that in the back of my mind and use that as the driving force as I try to make my way through the media industry. So shout out to my dad, old school Jamaican guy.
Shout out to Dad. Thank you, Tatiana. And Diamond.
I'd have to say my relationship with God has influenced me the most. Just going through life and realizing that when I have low moments, number one, I was made in his image. So if I have any moments where I don't feel like I'm good enough or anything like that, like a lot of us do, that's the constant reminder that I have that has pushed me through. And then also Tatiana brought up a really good topic about not feeling or seeing other people's lives on social media and feeling like you're not where they are. You're kind of, I don't want to use the word envious or anything like that, but you're trying to figure out why you're not there. And I have to always remind myself that number one, my steps are ordered, and that he has already guided me to whatever I'm going to do in this life. And if I have to pivot, I'll pivot, whatever. He is there with me. And he's honestly become my best friend, you know, and I think that has done a lot for me within the past few years.
Thank you, Diamond.
I want to piggyback on that, because that's twice that came up about, you know, just looking at other people and what they're doing. You know, I don't know what everybody else knows, but from the old school, they have a saying, don't try to keep up with the Joneses. I don't know if y'all understand what that means. So just because other people have this and have that, you don't try to keep up with them. And as my uncle always told me, you don't know what those people did to get what they got. And if they did certain things, are you willing to do what they did to get what they got? So these are things that you should keep in mind, particularly the younger ladies, because it is challenging to see people getting ahead, but you don't know if somebody pushed them along or they got a favor from somebody. You don't know how they're getting where they're getting to faster. And if you're supposed to be at level 1, then that's where you are. Be happy with being at level 1. Don't try to keep up with the Joneses.
Thank you.
Tiffany, but I just have to, I so much appreciate this evening. And I appreciate everything that everyone said. I've learned and I've grown, and I hope that I contributed. I appreciate what Siobhan just said, and I'll quickly tell you all that you could be more right. You just have to remember that whatever God has for you is for you, and it's good enough. And and very often it's more than you need. And I'll just quickly tell you that, and Derek knows this, I literally was on my deathbed given a 99% chance of death, a 1% chance to live, and was told that I needed a transplant. My husband and my family just went throughout the nation trying to find me a donor for the transplant. 8 million people were in the registry, and all we needed was one person. Other people were getting transplants, getting donors. All we needed was one person. We never found that one person because God had something else just for me. And that was in 2009. And, it's 2020, and I am living and loving and serving because God had something just for me.
Yes, 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 yes. I got chills. Yes. If I may, you guys, may I have a moment?
Hold on.
Thank you.
Hold on.
Thank you.
I know we really over time. I don't know if everybody had an opportunity to speak, or the panelists, but I will say, my daughter Nia, she's on there. I don't know if she got a chance to speak, but I'm thinking of her right now because she was the one that I heard. She was the first person I ever heard say Boniface, right? And then, 10 years later, she was in school for medicine. And then she said, Daddy, I want to change my major from medicine to fashion. And I said, fashion? So I said, you need to rethink that, So I just want you to unmute yourself briefly, Nia, and say something, because I don't think you had a chance.
I want Nia to show us those eyelashes. Go, girl.
Don't do that. No, but overall, with Boniface coming to light right now, and it's all really happening again, it feels amazing. Honestly, I came up with relaunching Boniface. I was like, Dad, we gotta do something. Like, it just doesn't feel right that it stopped. So my best friend, Amina, who's right there, I actually was talking to her about Boniface, and my dad and my sister, also Naylin, was a big part of it. And I was just trying to, I don't know, it was literally a feeling in me, and I was like, this needs to happen.
You're true.
Happening. It feels amazing.
Yes.
Go
Thank you. And thank you for that, Nia. Sometimes that's how it happens. Someone plants that seed, and then others water it. We cultivate it, and then it's the birth of something. So, thank you for that, Nia. And, I'm going to have Derek close us out, but I want to read something that Zach, who is, I guess, maybe one of the only other, we have James too. There aren't many men in here, but we do have Zach. And he made a comment earlier in the night. He said, us as young Black men have to do better and better when it comes to loving our young Black women and stop shying away from the challenge. And I feel like, Derek, as a father, as a man, as a Black man, that's what you're doing. You're not shying away from the challenge. You're stepping into a position, we're dealing with women. It reminds me of a Mr. Jackson with Hal Jackson's Talented Teens, which was for girls, but it was a Black man who kind of stood in the gap for us,
right,
to create platforms with us, to unify with us, to stand with us back to what you were saying, Siobhan, we need the men to stand with us. We're not in competition. It's not us against them, but it's us working together as a community, as a village. And with that being said, Derek, I would like for you to close us out with any words that you may want to share.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Tiffany. Thank you for everyone who has participated. Can you see me? I don't know why the screen is not.
Yes, we could see you.
Okay. I just want to say first, I give honor and praise to God first and foremost, because I don't even have time to tell my testimony and my story, but God has brought me a mighty, mighty, mighty long way. And I live my life trying to prove all of the naysayers wrong. And God is still, exalting me in God's way. And is I'm just humble. I'm in awe of the journey myself. But I want to thank my great grandmother who's not here. She taught me when I was little. She said, "Son, don't let nobody change your religion." And I had two powerful grandmothers on both sides. And my mother is here on this line. And I have my daughters here. So I just have women all around me. Tiffany is in my life. Her mother's on the phone. Miss Jackson is amazing. I love you, Miss Jackson. I don't know if Queen Mother Eleanor Moody Shepherd is here, but we just have I just got so much love around me, and I've been trained as I call her Queen Mother said. When you raise a woman, you raise a nation. And I heard Elijah Muhammad say that when I was younger on a video. And let me tell you, it's that's what we about. This is all about community. Uh for those who don't know who the Honorable Hal Jackson is as Miss Jack, he was a beautiful man, powerful. I'll just tell you a quick thing and I'm gonna close it out. Miss Jackson, I was in Mr. Jackson's office one day, and he had a beautiful office up in his penthouse in the radio station. And I'm sitting there and the phone rang and he had it on speakerphone. So I went to exit because it was a business call. He said, no, sit down. So I sat there and they're talking business and something went wrong. And he said, "Don't worry about it." He said, "If they don't want to roll with it, we'll roll right over them. One monkey don't start no show." And he turned around and winked at me. But he was a shot caller, is what I'm trying to say. But if you met him, he was the most humble man. When you see celebrities like treat him like he's the godfather, it's amazing. But he's a nice man. And then you see these wannabe people who think they all of that in a bag of chips. So he had a saying, "It's nice to be important, but it's more important to be nice."
Woo.
I'll leave it with that. And I just want to say, may God continue to bless his soul. And I thank him for his generosity. And thank you, Miss Jackson, for all of your love and blessings and support over the years. And thank you for coming out tonight to support. Thank you to all the panelists, to each and every last one of you. Thank you to all of the lovely, beautiful ambassadors, to my family and everybody who's here. God bless you. May heaven smile upon you. And through the grace of God, this is not it. May God bless you until we meet again. And as a lot of people said, I think we're going to be doing this probably on a monthly basis. This was actually just a thing we were doing, but this is amazing. And I think it is resonating with everybody else here. This is powerful.
Yes,
This is about community. This is about transforming people's lives. So I'm just committed. Thank you so much, Tiffany. She's been a solid rock in my life that God has blessed me with. And I just thank you. And
thank you. And thank you. And we're going to continue to do this. We're going to continue to build, and thank you all for your support. The magazine is launching next week, Thursday. Look out for it. Aubrey, if you can wave, we're featuring her in the magazine. She's a young entrepreneur, started a baking business. If you see her stuff, it's amazing. We also have Amara. She's 23 years old, the youngest Black person on her team at Microsoft. She's an engineer. We're also featuring her. We have some amazing people here in our community. Thank you all so much for being a part of this. And I'm just grateful. You all have poured into me And I'm so grateful for that. Thank you all for being here tonight. Can we all just unmute ourselves and just give ourselves a round of applause as we log off?
Yes,
Yes.
beautiful, beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you all so much. You all have a wonderful, blessed evening. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much from the bottom of
Thank
our
God. Thank God. Beautiful program.
Yes, it was.
Love you, family.
Excellent,
Love
excellent, excellent.
you. Excellent program. Excellent.
Excellent.
Fantastic. Bless
Proud
you.
to be
Love
part.
my family. Love my family.
We love our family. You all are family. We love our family. Family
Yes,
hug.
we do.
Hug, group hug.
Thanks for having me.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Have a good night, sisters, brothers. We love you.
Yes, love you too.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Night. God bless.
Good night, Brother Jeff. Yes, sir.
God bless. Peace and blessings.